coming up on today's show, we celebrate the 20th anniversary of the 2004 classic and Zack Snyder's debut, Dawn of the Dead.
When there is no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth.
Stay tuned. Welcome to Scary World, where we walk you through the latest and greatest in the world of horror. I am your host, Arturo Padilla.
Hi.
Remember, folks, this is a spoiler-free show.
I'm not going to spoil the surprise.
Now that we got that out of the way,
We got some rules around here.
there are 5 categories: production, story, ensemble, horror, and legacy. Each category can earn up to 2 points.
Showtime.
Per IMDb, the synopsis goes, a nurse, a policeman, a young married couple, a salesman, and other survivors
We're here in quarantine with the other survivors.
of a worldwide plague
Strange plague nonetheless struck its passengers.
that is producing aggressive flesh-eating zombies
You know, zombies don't mess with other zombies.
take refuge in a mega Midwestern shopping mall.
We're sorry we burned down the Hot Topic at the mall.
Production.
Told you I'd make a movie someday.
This movie was directed by Zack Snyder. This is his feature film debut, and prior to Dawn of the Dead, he was directing music videos for the likes of Morrissey, ZZ Top, Rod Stewart, and some other bands. We all know Zack Snyder now for his stylized movies. Some might say his over-stylized movies in certain occasions for sure. But this being his first movie, you have to kind of think about that after you watch this and kind of be in awe because, wow, this movie looks great.
Where you live, stay inside and lock.
For a first-time director to be able to take this script and this story and make it look this good, make it look like it's been made by a professional that's been doing this for years on years on years in the film industry. It's quite a feat. Technically, this movie is superbly executed. The shots are very well composed. They're framed out very nicely for maximum effectiveness. We get a version of Zack Snyder that we don't see anymore. Now with Snyder, we see a lot of huge world epic stuff. This movie was not small in scale by any means, but the stories that he's been telling recently with Superman, the Batman stuff, and now with Rebel Moon on Netflix, he's been dealing with some very epic stuff. For him to be dealing with this kind of movie and this kind of scale, and for it to be his feature debut, like, that's super impressive. And he shows his talent. He showcases his talent from the jump. The use of needle drops in this movie are very well done. They're very effective and they're impactful. It's a mix of different kinds of music, and I think that the choices that the filmmakers used for this, it was perfect. I think it ended up being very effective for the scenes that they were used in, and that's a big testament to the filmmakers, to the script itself, which we'll get to in a little bit, but also for Zack Snyder and being able to control this, right? Gather all these pieces and all these elements and make it into a very coherent movie. And for that, Dawn of the Dead gets a big old 2 for production. Story.
Surprise, Sydney.
The script was written by the current DC showrunner, James Gunn. Prior to Dawn of the Dead, believe it or not, he actually wrote the script and the story for 2002's Scooby-Doo. And before that, he actually gets no credit for his assist on the screenplay for 13 Ghosts. So that's pretty impressive. So James Gunn understands the genre. He understands working in the horror genre and working with horror elements. Aside from that, we all know James Gunn from Guardians of the Galaxy and his work with big casts and Suicide Squad and Peacemaker and all that stuff. We have episodes of The Morgue. If you guys want to go check those out, by all means, go check those out anywhere you get your podcasts. But James Gunn has a tendency to, know how to hit the proper beats with big casts. And this is no different. This is a big ensemble piece here because there's a lot of characters here, a lot of dynamics going on, and he's able to focus that and concentrate that in this script. It's a great story. It has great dialogue, as I mentioned before. The characters are great in this story. He made the dialogue very not over the top, because James Gunn has a tendency at times to just go a little bit too overboard with his comedy and his dialogue at times. But this, again, being the very start for him as well, he was able to just kind of tame it. It's the same thing for Zack Snyder. It was very tame in comparison to what he's doing these days. Both of these filmmakers, now writer-directors, they very much so work at their own pace. But here, back in 2004, they were able to collaborate and kind of keep each other in check, which is super important, because at times Snyder can go off the rails, and the same thing for Gunn in his movies. So I feel that these guys kept each other in check, and it was for the betterment of this whole production. So back to the story. All three acts flow very well. As I said before, James Gunn knows how to write comedy. So he is able to actually hit real comedic beats here within the framework of this horror movie, and it works. The comedy actually hits well and is impactful. It's much necessary comedy relief in a movie where things can get very bleak. And for that, this movie gets a big old 2 for story. Ensemble.
Any of them move, you fry 'em.
As mentioned in the previous section, this movie is full of great characters. The cast and the characters are all very different, very eclectic. They come from very different backgrounds, and most importantly, they have great relationships and very good character dynamics amongst all of them. The actors do a great job with their individual characters and make sure that each one of them has a personality, an identity.
I've just been informed that we are going off the air and switching to the emergency broadcasting system.
That's what makes this movie stand out so much, because every single character, get to know them, you get to understand them, and want to find out how everything turns out for them. That's a rare occasion, especially with this amount of characters that are introduced, and the amount of characters that have dialogue and that have backs and forths, and the amount of characters that just have screen time. Aside from that, Sarah Polley, who plays our main character Anna, she is awesome. She is the emotional anchor in this movie, and she does a great job with her role from start to finish. She starts it with this crazy emotional moment where, she pretty much loses her entire family and she's on her own, and then she meets all these strangers and gets to know them, and she is great. We follow her throughout the entirety of the movie, and she is there for us to make sure we're grounded, to make sure that we have somebody to always cling on to, because there's so many characters. No matter the size of the role, the characters are all very well rounded. And for that, this movie gets another big old 2. Horror.
This place gives me the creeps.
This movie has tons of gore and blood and guts and body parts and all of that good stuff. The zombie makeup is awesome. The makeup used to show the transformation from being human alive to being human undead to finally being a full-fledged zombie. It's very awesome. It's very well put together, very executed. The practical effects in this movie are just great. The majority of it is practical. There is some CG thrown in and sprinkled in throughout there, but it's not a detriment to any of the practical effects. It's not a detriment to any of the shots or the looks of it. Everything looks great here. Everything is executed to the peak here of great special effects. There is great action sequences. Good gunplay sequences throughout the movie as well. Mixed in with the horror stuff, I think the action is super successful. Zack Snyder, as we know, very good with action, makes it look good all the time. And this is no different, from the small prosthetic stuff to the big wounds to the big action shots to the flying body parts to close-up of Ving Rhames' forearm getting cut on the fountain, showing that he wasn't bit. That all, it looks very good, and it's all part of this successful machine that is this movie. And this is a major part of it, because without all this practical stuff, without the execution that all the practical stuff has, this movie would not be as impactful. One of the reasons that this movie is memorable and that it does stand the test of time is because of the practical effects and the team behind all this awesome gore we get on screen. And for that, this movie gets another 2. Legacy.
So what do you think?
This remake was excellent. It does justice to the original and then some. It piles on the gore, it piles on the character dynamics, it piles on the story. It makes the story a lot better, honestly. This movie is better than the original. That is my opinion. Others can have their own, but I think in every aspect here, it's a better movie. There's excellent execution on all levels of the filmmaking process here, and it shows. Watching this movie 20 years after its release, and for it to look that good still, and for it to still grab you and impact you the way it did 20 years ago, is a testament to the filmmakers, to James Gunn's script, and to Zack Snyder's direction. It is one of the best zombie movies ever made, period. And for that, for this huge legacy, for withstanding the test of time and building on Romero's legacy on top of that, this gets a big old 2. So to tally it up, Dawn of the Dead received a 2 for production, 2 for story, 2 for ensemble, 2 for horror, and a 2 for legacy, bringing its total up to 10. I love this movie. This movie is absolutely awesome. Every single time I see it, it just gets better and better and better. You get to pick out different things every single time because of the amount of characters there are in the movie. You can always notice a different detail every single time you watch it. I really love this movie. I love how it was executed. I love the fact that they took this remake from the 70s and they were like, you know what, let's bring this to the 2000s. Let's modernize this. Let's make this better than what it could be. All aspects of the filmmaking process were executed at the highest level in this movie, and great care was absolutely taken to preserve and enhance Romero's vision. Go check out Dawn of the Dead. It's currently playing on Netflix.
Can you tell me what time it is?
And that's a wrap, folks. Thank you for watching Scary World. Don't forget to drop a comment down below and hit the thumbs up on the video. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and tell your friends, your family, and your pets to also come along into the channel. Subscribe, like, and share as well. Check out our official podcast, The Morgue, dropping every Tuesdays anywhere you get your podcast streams: Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, anywhere you get your podcast streams. The Morgue is there for you guys. That is the spoiler show. We spoil everything on that show. We break everything down and we cut everything up and we talk about everything, news and movies in that show. If you want spoiler free, come back here to the YouTube channel again and check out Scary World on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We have spoiler free horror movie reviews for you guys here as well. Please check us out on all the social streams. We are everywhere. We will see you on Wednesday for another episode. And remember, it's a scary world out there, but we are here to walk you through it.
Just wanted to say goodbye.